The second speaker of our first technical session is Aloimonos, University of Maryland.
Good morning, MRC. I'm very glad to be here. MRC has been developing over the years, and it is now a unique operation because it is highly interdisciplinary. So today I'll talk to you about minimal cognitive systems. Now, what is a minimal cognitive system? The bee is a minimal cognitive system. It has 1 million neurons, and it is doing a very large number of tasks. Let me tell you something that the bee does that is not widely known. When the bee comes back to the beehive, it dances a dance to tell the other bees where the food is. How many bees leave to go for the food? Sometimes 0. Sometimes all of them. Sometimes half of them. It turns out the bees have a credibility factor because they remember all the past experiences. Yeah, last week you said there is food there, there was nothing. I'm not going to waste my time. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the brain of the bee. This is from MicroCT. You can see the yellow parts are the visual cortex, the lamina, the medulla, and the lobula, as they are called. It's a hierarchical network. From there, information goes into what you see, the red things, they are called mushroom bodies. And there you have sensory motor fusion. All the sensory information is aggregated in these places, and then there are projections to the middle that you cannot see what is inside. That's the central complex. This is where information about space is gathered. So the bee has a very useful representation of space, and that is the basis of its cognition. This is some of the stuff that is behind that you cannot see, and it basically has to do with navigation. So if you track the different networks in the bee and the fly, this is something that comes up very often. You have these layers. At the bottom, you have the perceptual neurons. Then the hidden layer are the canyon cells, as they are called. And then you have a big neuron at the top that also does inhibition. There are also networks with an additional layer. Now, it turns out you can do amazing things with networks like this, because we are interested in frugal AI and frugal robotics. So, a system with basic visual capabilities. What is basic visual capabilities? You have to know how you are moving. If you are moving, you better know how you are moving and the immediate space so that you cannot bump into things, avoid obstacles. These are basic, and every living system with vision has these capabilities. But then on top of that, you got to have episodic, remember your life, semantic, know objects, landmarks, and procedural memory, the things that you do, the tasks, the actions. Then you are a minimal cognitive system. So, from a theoretical viewpoint, minimalism is a very interesting exercise to find out what is the minimally required thing to solve a problem. It has been very successful in the linguistics community by the work of Chomsky and others, where they focused on minimalism, and they came up with the notion of the universal grammar. So in vision, you can ask the same question. Solve a vision problem using the minimal amount of visual information. Right now, in the field of robotics, SLAM is the king. There is software, etc., and it is used often successfully. That is the maximum information that you can have, where you have a 3D model of the world continuously at all times. No living system does that. Living systems get less out of the image, but sufficient to do the tasks that they want to do. So in the next 15 minutes or so, I will focus on the problem of minimal perception, okay? So how much can we trust our data? So here is Chahat. By the way, most of the work, the results that I will be presenting today, they come from the thesis of Chahat Singh, who is going to be defending next month in my lab. So on the right, you see the depth representation that is acquired with the state-of-the-art deep neural nets, a system called MIDAS, for example. And you see what's happening? The legs are not there. The system has missed the legs. This is a state-of-the-art system. Like all these ones, you know, people confuse performance with competence. You can have very high performance but be incompetent because you are making mistakes, silly mistakes like this. So in other words, you know, it would depend, depending on what you wear, the result will be different. So people have thought about the notion of uncertainty. And Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, said that the only true wisdom is that in knowing that you know nothing. So in the literature, uncertainty has been studied both as aleatoric or observational uncertainty and as epistemic or model uncertainty. So the aleatoric uncertainty in which we're interested is coming from the way the sensor collects data, while, you know, the way you pick up your training data will affect the model, so it's epistemic. So over the years, all these people that you see in this slide, they have attempted to develop networks that will estimate these things, like optical flow, visual odometry, dense depth, disparity, monocular depth, surface normals. All these are things you can get from vision. And unbeknownst to them, they were all doing a special case of something more general. And this is what we developed. So you can see here, from this scene, these are the surface normals. This is the uncertainty in the surface normals. This is where it's very difficult to compute the surface normals, or you cannot even compute the surface normals. And this is the final surface normal. And you can see that with that uncertainty, you already have a cartoon model of the world without worrying about the surface normals anywhere, but finding out where you cannot compute the surface normals. That's very useful information. So this is the paper on which we worked. And this is the general, the neural networks are optimizing this function that you see here, where this F can be the predictions, either it is optical flow or monocular depth or whatever. and G and H are monotone functions. And basically, this is all the approaches that I described before. These are the functions. This is the H, this is the G for all these different approaches in the literature. So this is unifying, and we applied it to the problem of the optical flow. So in other words, we don't want to compute the optical flow. We want to compute where we cannot compute the optical flow. Or mathematically speaking, we want to compute the places in the image where the uncertainty in the optical flow is highest. And that has a number of unconventional uses. What are they? Suppose an object is moving fast, then the image is blurred. There is blurring. Because there is blurring, there is higher uncertainty in the flow. You're moving through a space. The objects that are closest to you, they give you the highest optical flow. That's where the uncertainty will be high as well. So you can find nearby things so that you don't collide. If you are looking at a hole, the holes are usually dark. And when you compute the optical flow at the hole, you will have high uncertainty too. So you can find holes with uncertainty as well. So as you see here, I'll show you a number of examples. This is navigating through an indoor forest. Here's the drone. Here's the indoor forest. And you see the result of the uncertainty from which you can find where is the free space. Here is dodging dynamic obstacles. And you see the detection of it, or navigating through an unknown gap. Found the gap. Okay, so dodging dynamic obstacles, as you see here, I'm showing to you the results from other systems, like the MIDAS or extensions of it. So you can see the detection compared with what is written here as asna, which is the third eye for the Indian philosophy. Okay, here is navigating through a forest. You see the ground truth. You see what Midas found, and a technique called occlusion mask and asna. So you can see the Midas, the state-of-the-art deep learning, it has missed this branch, which asna found. And you see the difference in the parameters that are used in the model. Okay, flying through gaps. Again, here you see results on the finding of the hole from the different algorithms. The bottom right always is the result from our algorithm. Again, the motion blur sequence and finding the object basically through the uncertainty. Okay, we saw that. Again, specific results on finding the representation of the immediate extra personal space in order to navigate. Okay, we saw this before. And again, here's drone view, gap detected. So basically here the algorithm works by only computing the uncertainty in the flow. And then that uncertainty is coupled with a particular purpose that you have. So working with these systems, we figured out that their capabilities form a hierarchy. And you can build the next capability on the basis of the previous one. And over the years, we developed algorithms for kinetic stabilization, segmentation of moving things. As you move, you want to find other moving things, avoid obstacles, find your home, leave your home, go around, do things, and then come back to your home. The bees solve that as well. And so we decided to build a few of those agents so that we can do the green tasks as well. And we decided to build a little robo beehive that is have little nano quadrotors. And this, what you see here is the mother drone, the beehive. These are the drones that we have been using. These are supposed to be functional bees. Of course, they are too big to be bees, but over time they will become smaller. And so here is the mothership that has perched onto a tree. And now those guys will come out and will go for flowers. They find flowers, they touch them, and they keep going. Now, by doing that, we are investigating the possibility of artificial pollination. As the population of bees is dying, you know, here the bee is able to avoid other dynamic obstacles as it's doing its task. So this is the so-called Robo Beehive project that we keep developing further and further. And what I would like to stress here, this is an architecture, so to speak, of the Robo Bee with the various constraints that are involved. And there is here a model called tasks. And if we can change these tasks, we can get another Robo Bee that will perform inspection of bridges. And if you can change those tasks, you can get another Robo Bee that will follow you throughout your life and do measurements on you. So what I'm trying to say is that we are striving to develop architectures that are generic, because that could also create an industry within this field, because by having the basic design of the system that can do the basic things that it needs in order to get representations of space and move around successfully, now on top of that, you put any number of additional tasks and you get another system. And so the way the cognitive system works, whether it is minimal or not, it has a number of goals, and it has a task space, the procedural memory, and perception, episodic memory, and semantic memory. And these are developed to the point that the system is solving problems by always consulting the memories. This is how we all work. And this is a final slide from the neuroscientist Buzaki from New York University that argues that intelligence is based on the ability of the systems to navigate through environments. They develop this capability to change locations in an environment successfully. In order to do that, first, they did it with dead reckoning. I go 2 steps this way, then I have to go 2 steps that way to come back where I was. That's like dead reckoning. But After they were able to do it with dead reckoning and acquired vision, they took together also the images and the videos that they were developing, and they created maps. And in order to be very successful in the maps, they had to recognize landmarks. This is how semantic memory developed. And of course, by putting the episodic memories all together, creating memories of your life, of all the episodes that you have been exposed to, and creating associations which guide your further development. And so this is my final slide. And here are the remaining steps in this project. And there are two big ones. One is the Pavlovian learning. In other words, you got to be able to associate two things. This is somewhat a solved problem in today's AI. Like ChatGPT and the large language models, they sort of have solved this problem for language, because for any word, they predict the next one. For anything, you predict the next one. And so they have solved that problem. Now, what it remains to be done is to solve this problem, not for English, but for the language of action. When a system is acting in the world, the description of this action can be of a linguistic sense. You can have symbols describing what is going on. And the second thing is to develop the memory structures and be able to index appropriately. And for that, we are using hyperdimensional computing. And I stop here. Thank you, and good luck in your research.
Okay, we have a few minutes for questions, and next speaker can start getting set up.
So I have a question. So if you want to calculate uncertainty, if you want to calculate uncertainty, you also need to calculate depth first, or it's the uncertainty of normals or uncertainty of depth, right?
Uncertainty in this particular case is the uncertainty in the optical flow.
Okay,
that we used. So, but you could do uncertainty on, normals or on semantic segmentation. Or whatever other.
So whether uncertainty is sufficient to solve the task depends on the problem. So for normals, uncertainty may be fine, but like if you want to do depth, you need the depth also and the uncertainty.
They have different purposes, each one, and different ontologies, so to speak.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay, good.
One more question? Okay, so I have a question that maybe the answer is simply for artistic reasons, but you had a flapping bird on top of the quadrotor come in at one point in time in the talk. Was that for any particular reason, or was it because there were bees and you wanted more nature?
I couldn't hear you, man.
Oh, you have one movie where you had a big quadrotor and it had a bird on top of it.
Oh, there was a bird?
Yeah.
Trying to hit the other guy.
Oh, I see. So the
guy detected it and moved away.
And was the motion of the bird important for that, I guess?
It was a bird with flapping wings.
I understand. Okay, thank you.